Hello, good morning, and welcome to Unacademy. Let's get started with the analysis of today's The Hindu newspaper. These are the topics that we shall be discussing today. Straight away, let's look at topic number one, but this one I have picked from today's The Indian Express. Very important article for GS paper 2, written by Member of the Parliament, Mr. Manish Tiwari. Ours is a parliamentary democracy. And parliamentary democracy primarily would mean that Prime Minister and Council of Ministers are collectively accountable to Lok Sabha, the lower house of Indian Parliament. This is the model that we have borrowed from the Britain, the Westminster's model. What is the principle? The principle is that since these ministers who are part of the executive, these ministers are drawn from the legislature, executive should be able to govern as long as the executive has the majority in the legislature, which means executive will govern, but the legislature will have scrutiny, oversight, and will hold this executive accountable. But what Mr. Manish Tiwari is arguing, that although this system was trying to ensure accountability, but in the process, what it has led to is monologue of executive dominance. Long story short, we thought that parliamentary democracy would ensure accountability of executive to the legislature. But in reality, we see something else. It is the executive which is controlling the legislature, executive dominance. When we look at first Lok Sabha, it met for a period of, on an average of 135 days in a year. So, in a year, the parliament in the first Lok Sabha would meet for 135 days. Fast forward to 17th Lok Sabha, we met only 55 days on an average in a year. And remember, the 17th Lok Sabha, the parliament was catering to a complex country, a vast country in terms of complexity of governance, in terms of population as well. Mr. Manish Tiwari argues that this is not a mere statistic of administrative efficiency or inefficiency that we have been meeting less and less number of days in a year. It speaks of a metric, it's a chilling metric of a legislature in retreat. Why Mr. Manish Tiwari is writing this article? Because today the winter session of the Indian Parliament would begin. As Parliament reconvenes, let's ask, why is Indian legislature in retreat? And that's what Mr. Manish Tiwari is arguing in this article. And he points out that the blame squarely lies, the principal blame lies in anti-defection law. Anti-defection law under 10th schedule of the Constitution, which was inserted by the 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act in 1985. 10th schedule was added to the constitution called anti-defection law. What was the purpose? The purpose was to ensure stability of the government, because there used to be crossing the floor, ayaram gayaram politics was at its peak. It led to the instability of the governments. To ensure that the governments are stable, anti-defection law was passed. But let's go back. Dr. Ambedkar in the Constituent Assembly was asked, why have we incorporated from Britain a parliamentary democracy? Why should we not embrace presidential form of democracy? Dr. Ambedkar replies and says that both presidential system as well as parliamentary system are democratic systems elected by the public. But when we look at the government, it has to meet two criteria, or it has to satisfy two things. Number one, executive, any form of government that we implement, executive should be stable. And second, this executive should be accountable as well. Now, listen to me carefully. Dr. Ambedkar is asked, why did we adopt parliamentary system and not the presidential system? Dr. Ambedkar replies that whether it is parliamentary system or presidential system, both systems are democratic. After all, the ultimate power is with the people, the popular sovereignty lies with the people. Any government should be stable as well, but it should be accountable as well. That means executive should be stable, executive should be accountable to the legislature. But Dr. Ambedkar says we have not been able to devise a system which can marry both. We don't have a system which can have best of both worlds. A system where executive is stable as well as the executive is accountable to the public, accountable to the legislature. If we want accountability, for that we have parliamentary system. If we want stability of the governments, for that we have presidential system. That is why we decided in the Constituent Assembly that we want a system of government which should be accountable to the legislature. That is why we have embraced parliamentary form of government. But the logic, listen to me carefully, the logic of introducing, adopting parliamentary system was meant for accountability. What anti-defection law tried to do was try to give stability to the governments, which goes against the very logic of why we adopted parliamentary system. But be that as it may, in anti-defection law, the political parties control the legislators. Legislators, they don't have their own independence. They are bound by the whips issued by their respective political parties. Now, listen to me carefully. Imagine it this way: no bill can be passed in the parliament if it wants to, no bill or no money can be withdrawn by the executive unless and until an appropriation bill is passed by the parliament, which means for money to be spent by the executive, approval has to come from the legislature. But legislature comprises up of legislators who don't have independence because they are bound by the whips of the political parties. How can this power of the legislators to allow or disallow the executive from spending money from the public purse? How can this be considered to be a check on the executive where the legislators are bound by the whips issued by the political parties? Sir, I don't understand. I'll give you one more example. You have to impeach the president of India. Why? Because the president is alleged to have violated the constitution. You want to remove the judge of the Supreme Court. Why? Because of proved misbehavior or incapacity. Now, this is supposed to be a quasi judicial function of the legislators. Legislators will have to independently decide whether the president has violated the constitution, whether the judge has committed misbehavior or is incapacitated. But how can you take this decision when the whip issued by the political party is binding on you? This, Mr. Manish Tiwari argues, is a grotesque contradiction of justice because when the House takes up the impeachment of the president or a judge, its members are expected to act as jurors, weighing evidence with impartiality. Look at the evidence, whether the president has violated the constitution. Look at the evidence against the judge. Look at the evidence against the CAG. Look at the evidence against the CEC. But you don't look at the evidence with impartiality because you are bound by the whip issued by the political party. Is it not grotesque contradiction of justice? So the problem is with anti-defection law. Then in a healthy democracy, we say the government must have its way and the opposition must have its say. Let opposition make the noise because ultimately government has the numbers. Government would be able to pass any kind of bills it wishes to pass. But now, what the treasury benches are doing, what the MPs belonging to the government are doing, they are twisting a narrative wherein they say that the responsibility of ensuring smooth functioning of the parliament is with both executive as well as the legislature, which means the government as well as the opposition. This, Mr. Manish Tiwari says, is insidious assertion. It will have potential ramifications for the health of a democracy. Why? Manish Tiwari argues that government controls the majority in the legislature. So you are the principal actor when it comes to governance. The role of the opposition is to scrutinize, critique the government, offer alternatives. But when opposition tries to introduce an adjournment motion, it is not accepted by the speaker who belongs to the ruling political party or the ruling coalition, then what will opposition do? When the demand for various discussions is rejected by the business advisory committee headed by the speaker who belongs to the ruling political party, then what is the alternative available to the opposition? The only alternative is disruption. And this is something when during the UPA 2 between 2009 and 2014, when the opposition led by the BJP was blocking the parliament, obstructing the parliament, disrupting the parliament, the government asked the same question to the opposition then: why don't you let parliament function? Mr. Arun Jaitley then said that parliamentary obstructionism is our right. Because how do we make you listen when you don't listen to us through adjournment motions, through debates, through discussions? We have to resort to obstructing the parliament, disrupting the parliament. That is our right. And we have seen when the government controls the parliament, which means the executive controls the legislature, question hour, zero hour, these become the first casualty. In question hour, you can ask questions to the executive. In zero hour, you can ask questions to the executive without any prior notice. So these are meant to be tools of accountability where the legislature is holding the executive accountable. But if the government has its way, has its say as well, then these tools are suspended. This, Mr. Manish Tiwari says, does not bode well for the health of Indian democracy and the parliament. The government, rather than engaging in a debate, often chooses to pass monumental legislation in a matter of minutes. There was a report presented by PRS Legislative Research, which said in the last Lok Sabha, the average time it took for Rajya Sabha to pass a bill was 7 minutes. And listen to me carefully. These are the bills which become laws, and these laws govern us. That means these laws have an impact on our lives, on our dignity, on our privacy, on our fundamental rights, on our livelihood, on our clean environment. And these laws are passed without debate. Hardly takes 7 minutes for the Rajya Sabha to pass a bill. And there have been numerous bills which have been passed without debate. Numerous bills which were not sent to parliamentary committees, because it is these parliamentary committees where we assume, where we hope that the members of the parliament will rise above their party politics, will rise above their party membership, and will deliberate these bills for the needs of the people of this country. But the bills are not being referred to parliamentary committees. The reports of the parliamentary committees are not made public. And ultimately, what happens? The kind of laws that are passed are ineffective. Section 66 capital A, which was inserted into the Information Technology Act of 2000, and this was inserted in the year 2008. In 2015, a two-judge bench of the Supreme Court, in a landmark case known as Shriya Singhal v. Union of India, struck down Section 66A because it violates freedom of speech and expression. But the point here to tell you is that this Section 66 capital A, when in 2008 it was introduced in the Information Technology Act, it was done without debate. No debate. No debate at all. Which means Parliament is fast losing its sheen as an important deliberative institution. It is now hijacked and controlled by the executive, according to the author. When this Westminster's model, this UK model, was implemented, it was argued that king must govern with the advice of the elected council. Members of this council would serve fixed terms. Parliament would meet at regular intervals throughout the year, which means now the king will not be able to decide when parliament meets. It's the executive which will decide. Over a period of time, countries such as Britain and other Commonwealth countries, such as Canada, such as Australia, important institutions have evolved which keep a check on the executive. Legislature has evolved various tools to keep a check on the executive. For example, in Britain, there is Prime Minister's question hour. every Wednesday. The Prime Minister has to necessarily come to the House of Commons, seek questions, answer those questions every Wednesday. And this, Mr. Manish Tiwari says, is absent in India, where Prime Minister can speak to the media in one-to-one interviews, can speak on Man Ki Baat, but cannot speak inside the parliament and address the questions raised by the opposition. And for that, what Mr. Manish Tiwari is arguing, Parliament has regressed from a robust legislature possessing unfettered powers of oversight into a mere approval body. So the policies, the bills are cooked by the cabinet, presented before the parliament, and parliament just approves it without discussing, without dissecting, without giving any recommendations, because there is hardly any debate in the parliament. And that is because of anti defection law, which Mr. Manish Tiwari says should be abolished. Or this anti defection law, where the whips are issued on the legislators. This whip should be binding only in those instances where the stability of the government is threatened. Where, for example, in case of money bills, in case of confidence motion, in case of no confidence motion, in case of vote of thanks on president's address, make this whip binding. But in all other cases, it should not be binding on the legislators, so that legislators can think about particular issues based on their own conscience, because we want legislators to be accountable to their constituencies rather than legislators accountable to their party bosses. And this is where there's a question on your screen. The foundational principle of parliamentary democracy is the legislature's power to hold the executive to account. However, the Indian parliament is increasingly witnessing a retreat where executive dominance has overshadowed legislative scrutiny. Critically analyze this decline in the light of functioning of anti-defection law and the reduction of parliamentary sitting days. Write this answer in 250 words and submit to us. We shall evaluate. Any questions, please let me know. Great. Let's look at another topic. Prime Minister of Israel, Mr. Netanyahu, has submitted request for pardon from the Israeli president. Now, how this topic becomes relevant for your exam, look at UPSC GS2 mains question paper 2025. Compare and contrast the president's power to pardon in India and in the United States of America. Are there any limits to it in both the countries? What are preemptive pardons? For example, Mr. Netanyahu is the only sitting prime minister of Israel who stands on trial for three different cases. Case number one, fraud. Case number two, breach of trust. Case number three, accepting bribes. Now, you don't have to remember all of this, but just to give you context, that the sitting Prime Minister of Israel is the first one to sit on a trial in three different cases. Now, what he has done, he has formally submitted pardon request to the Israeli president. Now, whether Israeli president will pardon him or not, that becomes important and may be relevant for your exam. Does the president of Israel have this power to pardon? Yes. It is provided in the basic law, the president of the state. And this pardoning power available to the Israeli president allows the Israeli president to pardon offenders. Pardon means you are set free, and any disqualification which is attached to your offense is automatically gone. Which means what? For example, I am a legislator. I have been convicted by a court of law and I've been sentenced to, let's say, 10 years in jail. Can I contest elections during these 10 years? No, I'm disqualified. Can I contest elections once I'm released from the jail? No. For 6 years, I am further disqualified. But what if the president pardons me? Not only will I be set free, any disqualification which is attached to my conviction also goes, which means the moment the president pardons me, I can contest the election straight away. That power of pardon is available to Israeli president as well. But the fact is, listen to me carefully, the president of Israel can pardon offenders. Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has not been convicted. He is only accused. He is on trial. And before conviction, he is asking for pardon. Why? Because he says this is an important time in our history and we want to unify this country. That is why you should pardon me. So, whether the president can pardon an accused or the president can pardon only offenders before conviction, that remains to be seen. Although the law uses the term offenders, implying those already convicted, have there been instances where accused have been pardoned by the president? Yes. For example, in 1984, in Bus 300 affair, where the security forces belonging to Israel, they killed two Palestinian car hijackers, bus hijackers. Even before their conviction, they were pardoned by the president. But that was a separate matter altogether, which I'm going to discuss slightly later. So, does the president of Israel have a power to pardon? Yes, pardon offenders or commute or reduce sentences. Commutation is normally associated with death sentence. So, if you have been sentenced to death, the president can commute it to life imprisonment or reduce your sentences. Maybe rigorous imprisonment can be commuted to simple imprisonment. 10 years imprisonment may be reduced to 5 years imprisonment or shorten periods of limitation or expunge criminal records so that no records will show that you have been ever convicted by a court of law. These are the powers available under the basic law, the president of the state, for the president of Israel. But is it an absolute power without any limitation? Because look at the previous year's question. Are there any limits to it in both the countries? Maybe USA will be replaced with Israel in the next examination. Who knows? So, this is where current affairs plays a very important role. Why this question was asked? Because President Joe Biden pardoned his son, Hunter Biden. If this was in the news, that's how UPSC asked this in the mains examination. So, if Israeli president is in the news, this may well be asked in your mains examination. But is this power of the Israeli president absolute? No. The High Court of Justice, the Supreme Court basically of Israel, has said we can review it. If the president has pardoned somebody, but there are defects in that pardon, unreasonable pardon was given. If this pardon was given for purely political reasons, we can overturn that pardon. So there is judicial review. Second, whether you can be pardoned before conviction or only offenders could be pardoned. I told you previously in 1984, when even before conviction, two Israeli security forces personnel they were pardoned by the president. But that was a separate case. Separate case because that was intended for public and security interests and cannot be used for normal standard criminal cases. This is what Israel Democracy Institute argues that you can pardon somebody even before conviction, but that should be for a larger public issue. Larger security interests are involved. It cannot be for standard criminal cases for which Israeli prime minister is accused of. And third, requirement of an admission. If the Israeli prime minister is seeking pardon, he has to first accept that he has committed mistake. He has to accept his guilt. He has to show remorse for what he has committed. Only then the prime minister can be pardoned. And that too, opposition leaders in Israel say, once the prime minister says that I'm guilty of what I have done, I'm expressing remorse, then he should retire from public life. Once he retires from the public life, so the condition should be he should retire from public life and then the president should pardon. But what will happen in this case, we will have to wait and watch. These are the facts that you have to keep in mind. Clear? Great. Now let's look at another important column. AIDS and TB fight. Tamil Nadu shows the way again. Today is December 1, the World AIDS Day. Tamil Nadu has played a spectacular role in reducing the incidence of AIDS in Tamil Nadu. Now is leading a fight against TB as well, tuberculosis. And what this writer is saying in this article, that what Tamil Nadu did for AIDS, what Tamil Nadu is doing for TB, that should be the model followed by the rest of the country. Because rest of the country followed the Tamil Nadu model when it comes to AIDS control, and the rest of the country should follow the Tamil Nadu model when it comes to eradication of TB as well. How? In the early 1990s, HIV was prevalent in almost all parts of India. But HIV may not necessarily lead to AIDS. So, AIDS is the extreme level of disease caused by HIV virus. So, HIV was prevalent in almost all parts of the country, though 1% of the less than 1% of the adult population was affected. And the first time when it was discovered in Africa and the first time when it was discovered in India, it was found in a sex worker. And this is where the taboo related to HIV AIDS is associated with the sex workers. So initially, it used to be transmitted through unprotected heterosexual sex, except in few northeastern states where those who were drug addicts, who were addicted to drugs, and they would share the syringes, they would share the needle. And that's how HIV and then extreme form of HIV led to AIDS. Then what happened? The government of India responded quickly and launched a campaign called National AIDS Control Project in 1992. And at that time, we received a significant funding from the World Bank as well. A soft loan of 84 million was provided by the World Bank. Because of this National AIDS Control Project, every state in India had to set up an AIDS cell through which what will happen? You will have to create awareness in the society. Please get yourself tested. Then we will have to test you. Then we have to keep the report of this test secret as well. It should not be revealed. Then we have to put you on the medical support. We have to give medicines. We have to ensure that this transmission is low. We have to ensure that the load of this virus is low. This was the intention, this was the role that these aid cell had to perform. But the money to this aid cell, who will give? Governments, central government, state governments. But how will central government and state government give money to these institutes? Through funding, through budgetary allocation. Now listen to me carefully. If I am part of an institution, for example aid cell, I want to create more and more awareness. I want to test people rigorously. For that, I need the support of non governmental organizations, NGOs, because they are the ones who are at the forefront of dealing with these infected individuals. And I need their help so that I can create more awareness. I need more people like them so that I can reach out to every single individual who is affected by this virus. But for that, I have to pay these NGOs. NGOs were treated as vendors. So these vendor payments would happen only if we receive money from the central government or the state governments. So a lot of bureaucratic hassle was created because of the conceptualization of AIDS cell. Long story short, AIDS control project. This the government of India ensured that in every state AIDS cell is established. The role of the AIDS cell would be to create awareness, aggressive testing, keep the reports secret, and then put these people on medications. But then we needed the support of the NGOs. And to give them money for that, we first need to receive money from the government, which was taking time. Tamil Nadu identified this problem And what Tamil Nadu did, Tamil Nadu converted this AIDS cell into Tamil Nadu State AIDS Control Society. So now it was a society registered under the Societies Registration Act. Now, what's the difference between the two? When it was a cell, we were bound by government budgetary allocation. When it comes, we can spend the money for awareness, for testing, and for making payments to NGOs. So we were dependent on the government money. But now that it is a society registered under the Societies Registration Act, we can get funds not only from the budgetary allocation, we can get funds from others as well, maybe corporates, maybe individuals. And then we are free to hire staff. We are free to partner with these NGOs. So now these NGOs are not vendors, these NGOs are equal partners. So it makes the functioning smooth. When it is smooth, removed of bureaucratic hurdles, now the society is able to hire staff, go for testing, aggressive awareness campaigns, and a beautiful campaign was launched in Tamil Nadu called U is equal to U, which means undetected is equal to untransmittable. You might have heard of those campaigns. This disease does not spread through touch, because a lot of misconceptions were created around AIDS, that it is an infectious disease which transfers, which transmits through the touch as well. So that had to be busted, and for that, you need awareness campaigns. But Tamil Nadu thought that we need a campaign which can be more understood by the people. So the campaign was launched, U is equal to U. What is that? For example, during COVID 19, if you had gotten yourself tested, RT-PCR test, that will tell you what is the viral load of this coronavirus. Higher the value of this load, more likelihood of you transmitting this virus to others. But if this viral load is less, your RT-PCR test will not detect this virus. That is why we would previously think and say false negative or false positive. Long story short, if there are individuals, listen to me carefully, who have been subjected to medical treatment for HIV, and after 3 months of treatment, if the HIV load is so less that the test will not detect this virus, which means now you are not in a position to transmit this virus, and now you can marry as well. So this campaign became highly successful in Tamil Nadu because people realized this message, this simple message of U is equal to U. If your virus is undetected, it is untransmittable as well. Because remember, there is no cure to AIDS. And what happened because of Tamil Nadu converting this AIDS cell into a society and this campaign, U is equal to U, there it led to a steep drop in the HIV infections in Tamil Nadu. Because Tamil Nadu was once considered as the hot spot of HIV infections in the entire country. When the government of India looked at this, the government of India witnessed this, the government of India said, this is the model that we need to replicate in the entire country. Then World Bank also, the government of India also mandated that all the states should follow this Tamil Nadu model and convert your AIDS cell into an AIDS society and launch these campaigns, U is equal to U, so that these campaigns are easily understood by the people. More awareness, more testing, more people under the radar of medicines. Ultimately, the viral load becomes less. That means you're not able to transmit this. As a result, India's adult HIV prevalence rate came down from a peak of 0.54% to 0.22% now. So, what Tamil Nadu did when it comes to AIDS control, that the rest of the country follows. And now, what Tamil Nadu is doing for TB eradication, that the rest of the country should also follow, according to this article. The 2025 Global TB Report released by World Health Organization. It says, let's say, for example, India. 25% of the total number of people who are infected with TB globally, where are they? They are in India. So it seems as if India is the TB capital of the world. Compare it with the AIDS. Only 7.5% of the global total number of people living with HIV are in India. And TB is associated with AIDS in one way. How? TB is the most common opportunistic infection in HIV infected people. Opportunistic infection means you are infected by, let's say, virus. In a healthy person, maybe there won't be a significant change or significant damage. Or maybe you will be unaffected by this because your body system has immunity to fight against these viruses. But what happens in AIDS, autoimmune deficiency syndrome? Your immune system gets weakened. So you're more likely to be affected by these infections, by these viruses, as compared to a healthy person. So in AIDS, if your immune system is automatically and already weakened, you are more affected by other bacterial infections, other infections such as TB. 25% of the AIDS deaths in India related to TB. So what Tamil Nadu has done, that is something that the rest of the country has to follow. What? Globally, the target for eliminating TB is 2030, but we have set for ourselves an uh, ambitious target that we want to achieve this TB free status by 2025, although it now seems unlikely because we are in December 2025, though this target has not been achieved. But yes, we have the pace of decline of TB cases in India is faster than anywhere else in the world. But even in India, there is a geography where more TB cases are concentrated. For example, UP, for example, Maharashtra, for example, Madhya Pradesh, Bihar, Rajasthan. Of all the cases of TB in India, 56% are there in these areas. But Tamil Nadu is the first state in the country which has integrated a model where you can predict the possibility of TB deaths among the patients. This model, Indian Council for Medical Research, together with National Institute of Epidemiology, they have created a model which Tamil Nadu is using. And now, through this model, you can predict the TB deaths in the patients, which means what? You screen the patients. Rapid test kits have been set up under this partnership of Indian Council for Medical Research and National Institute of Epidemiology. Rapid test kits, that's the step number one. Report that these are the people suffering from tuberculosis. Start treatment, put them under the antibiotic support, and give them nutrition support as well, because you need to provide nutritional standards to these infected people, without which these antibiotics may not work effectively. This model, using a software to reduce the TB burden in the state, that needs to be replicated by the rest of the country. So, what direction Tamil Nadu showed when it comes to AIDS, and what it is showing now when it comes to TB eradication. So, in for AIDS control, the states followed. Now, for TB control, also the states have to follow. The states should follow according to this article, which primarily means use the software prepared by ICMR and National Institute of Epidemiology, and then take a look at these test reports, take a look at the testing which we have done, and basis their daily routine, basis whether they are following medicines or not, you can predict deaths related to TB, so that you can target those citizens, give them nutritional support so that they are able to respond to these antibiotics. That needs to be replicated in the rest of the country. Clear? Great. How Pakistan's judiciary is being undermined. We will look at this topic very briefly for you to just have an idea, and maybe you can compare it with India whenever a question is asked. Otherwise, we would need to skip this article. You would know because of 27th Amendment. Chetan sir has already covered this in his lectures. In fact, he has released a video as well. Because of 27th Amendment to the Pakistani Constitution, now the army chief becomes the most powerful entity. And the army chief, as well as the president of Pakistan, they will now enjoy lifelong immunity. What basically 27th Amendment does, it documents, although previously it was undocumented. Now it documents that the principal power center in Pakistan is the army. We have seen how army has been controlling the Pakistani state right from the emergence of Pakistan as an independent country. We have seen field marshals, army chiefs leading coups against the elected governments. We saw that with Ayub Khan, with Yahya Khan, with General Ziaul Haq, then Parvez Musharraf, and now Asim Munir, who has designated himself as the field marshal, is becoming the most powerful person in Pakistan. And now, constitutionally, because of 27th Amendment. But the 27th Amendment also created something else in Pakistan known as Federal Constitutional Court. And that is the focus of this article. FCC. How this FCC undermines judiciary in India? Three ways. Number one, the creation of this Federal Constitutional Court means what? Now, the Supreme Court of Pakistan will not enjoy original jurisdiction over federal cases, over constitutional cases. Instead, these cases will be heard by a separate Federal Constitutional Court, which primarily means that if there is a case involving interpretation of the Constitution, fundamental rights, disputes between the center and the provinces, those will not be heard by by the Supreme Court of Pakistan, but by the Federal Constitution Court. And who will pick judges to this Federal Constitutional Court? The executive. Which means the outcome of these cases will be dependent upon what the government of the day wants. That's number one. Number two, executive has the power to transfer judges without their consent. Which means if there is a judge who is hearing a case against an important political personality and that judge is independent, the executive can transfer that judge. That means executive will get to decide, if you toe our line, you will remain. Otherwise, we will transfer you. And then there is a tussle between the existing Supreme Court and the Federal Constitution Court. Federal Constitution Court has now been established very quickly because the president also gave assent to this constitutional amendment bill when it was passed by the Pakistani National Assembly as well as the Senate. Because in Pakistan also, they have a bicameral legislature. There are two houses. And now there is a conflict between the Federal Constitution Court as well as the Supreme Court. And there have been some judges who have resigned as well. Some judges who have challenged the constitutional validity of this Federal Constitution Court. We don't have to dig too deep into this, just understand a conflict between executive and judiciary. An executive, if it has the final say, it can create other institutions such as Federal Constitutional Court to subvert the judiciary. That's what you need to understand. Clear? Okay. The Chandigarh question. If you look at our constitution under Article 1, it starts with India, that is Bharat, shall be a union of states. And do you know this phrase union of states include only states excludes union territories. Why? Because although we are using the term union of states, but it primarily means that ours is a federal polity. And in federal polity, you have a union and you have states. Are states subservient to union? No. Both union as well as states, they derive their powers from the constitution, and it is the constitution which is supreme. But yes, our constitution creates a strong union and weak states. But nevertheless, both union and states, they share federal relationship with each other in the form of dual government, in the form of distribution of powers. There's government in the center, government in the state, and then they powers are distributed, which are clearly mentioned under Schedule 7 of the Constitution: union list, state list, concurrent list. But union territories are directly controlled by the center. When they are directly controlled by the center, that means there is no need for a dual government or distribution of powers, which means they don't share federal relationship with the union, which means they are directly under the control of the center. But when it comes to union territories in India, we don't see uniformity. There are some union territories which have lieutenant governors. There are some union territories which have administrators. There have been union territories where we had chief commissioners. Not just that, there have been union territories where there is no legislative assembly. And there are union territories which have a legislative assembly. For example, Delhi, Puducherry, Jammu and Kashmir now. What about those union territories without a legislative assembly? Who makes laws for them? Parliament. Who governs these union territories? President. But how? Through his agent. And who is that agent? Administrator or a lieutenant governor. But there is Article 239 of the Constitution which empowers the parliament, that their parliament, what you can do, you can establish or create a legislative assembly for a union territory. And then it will have the form of government that we have seen for Puducherry, Delhi, and Jammu and Kashmir. But then we have Article 240 of the Constitution, which says President can issue directions for those union territories which do not have a legislative assembly, and why these directions should be issued: for their good governance, not just for good governance, for also peace, for also progress. Chandigarh is a matter of dispute between Punjab and Haryana. Why Chandigarh remained a union territory? Because when Punjab was reorganized in 1966, there was a dispute as to who will get Chandigarh, this beautiful city designed along like the grid pattern that we saw in the Indus Valley civilization. Because in Indus Valley civilization, we saw the establishments in the form of grids, houses in the form of grids. Same system that you see in Chandigarh as well, designed by the French Le Corbusier. But be that as it may, Punjab claimed Chandigarh, Haryana claimed Chandigarh, and then the government decided, the union government decided, let's keep Chandigarh as a union territory for some time and then we will decide. Because in 1966, when the Punjab reorganization took place, Haryana was carved out and some parts of Punjab were given to Union Territory of Himachal Pradesh. And Himachal Pradesh later was given a statehood. Be that as it may, we know what happened in Punjab. Punjab is a border state. There was a Khalistani uprising. We know what the impact of Jarnail Singh Brindawale was, how the Golden Temple was came under attack because of Operation Blue Star, and then what happened in Punjab. There was chaos. In 1985, there was an agreement, there was an accord between the then Prime Minister, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi, and the Akali Dal leader, Mr. Longowal. According to this agreement, Chandigarh should be given to Punjab because it was promised to Punjab. But this agreement, this accord was not implemented. Now, what happened? What is the controversy? The bulletin, the press release, or the website claimed that the government is trying to bring in a constitutional amendment bill in the winter session of the parliament, which begins today, so that Chandigarh is brought under Article 240 of the Constitution. Which means right now, Chandigarh is governed by the administrator who is the governor of Punjab, although the state government of Punjab has no say. There is a municipal corporation in Chandigarh which looks after the basic amenities. So, why is this controversy? Because on ground, nothing may change. Sir, what are you trying to say? Chandigarh is a union territory. Is the governance of Chandigarh the responsibility of Punjab? No. Yes, Chandigarh is a joint capital of Punjab and Haryana. But the fact is that the Punjab governor acts as the administrator of Chandigarh. Punjab feels that we have a strong stake on Chandigarh. We should get this Chandigarh back. But if Chandigarh is brought under Article 240, which means the president will issue guidelines for good governance, peace, and security of Chandigarh. We may lose our claim on Chandigarh. That is why they protested. Even the BJP unit of Punjab protested, and ultimately, government said we have no plans to bring Chandigarh under Article 240. If at all we will have to do that, we will do that through consultation, through democratic exercise. But on this particular topic, there is a question for your practice. How far do you agree that union territories are the outcasts of democracy in India? If India is a federal polity and federalism is part of the basic structure of the constitution, why then in a federal polity do we need union territories? Because union territories are directly under the control of the center, which means there is no federal relationship. Are these outcasts of democracies in India? That's something that you will have to write and share. Okay, great. Center writes to states to reconsider renaming Raj Bhavans. Raj means rule. The official residence of governor, Raj Bhavan. The official residence of the lieutenant governors, Raj Nivas. Raj means rule, but governors don't rule. It's a colonial thing where governors had the powers under the Government of India Act 1935 and even before that. In 2024, when there was a conference of governors, it was suggested that these names should be altered so that Raj Bhavan can become Lok Bhavan, People's House, and Raj Nivas can become Lok Nivas. Optics, nomenclature can have an important impact on the psyche of the people. Now, this is not Raj Bhavan, this is not where you're ruled or governed. This is People's Bhavan, this is People's Nivas. Raj Bhavan for states or Lok Bhavan for states and Lok Nivas for union territories. And West Bengal governor was the first one to get his official residence renamed as Lok Bhavan, and the Ladakh lieutenant governor was the first one to get his residence, official residence, changed from Raj Nivas to Lok Nivas. Another topic. More than 300 Indians evacuated from Sri Lanka arrive at the Kerala capital, Thiruvananthapuram. What is this campaign called? This campaign is called Operation Sagar Bandhu. So, in match the following type questions, these things have been asked previously and can be asked. Operation Sagar Bandhu was launched by the government of India, by the Navy. Why? To evacuate those who were stranded in Sri Lanka because of the problems affected in floods, landslides. Previously, this is what we call HADR, Humanitarian Assistance and Disaster Relief and Rescue Missions. Previously, also, the Government of India, the Navy, or the Air Force have conducted such operations. For example, Operation Sadbhav was conducted in 2024, where humanitarian assistance was provided to Vietnam, Myanmar, Laos, because they were devastated by Typhoon Yagi. So, Operation Sadbhav related to Vietnam, Myanmar, Laos. Operation Karuna in 2023, it was launched to assist Myanmar because due to cyclone, what was the name of the cyclone Mocha? Destruction and devastation took place in Myanmar. Then Operation Dost, which was widely critiqued as well as supported when there was a massive earthquake in Turkey as well as in Syria, we launched this massive search and rescue mission known as Operation Dost, provided humanitarian relief to Turkey. Operation Samudra Maitri 2018, which was launched to assist Indonesia after a massive earthquake and tsunami struck central Sulawesi. And let's not forget, even Quad, the quadrilateral involving India, United States, Australia, Japan. Why was it initiated in the first place? It was done immediately after the tsunami of 2004. These countries got together to provide humanitarian assistance to those who were affected by the tsunami of the Indian Ocean in 2004. So these things are important, can be critical for your examination. That is it for today in our newspaper analysis. If you understood all the topics that we covered today, do not forget to press the like button, subscribe to our channel if you haven't yet, and all the best.